everybody, and welcome to another episode of Essex Answers. Today we are here with Professor Ismene Gizelis, and we thought to bring her here because the exam period is coming out, and maybe she can tell us a bit about the examination marking criteria, and I think this topic might be very useful for us. I will start to ask you. Well, I will start saying thank you for coming here.
Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you very much. And I know the first question is going to be like quite uncommon because I didn't give you the transcripts for it. How a professor is feeling when the exam period are coming up? Because the students are very nervous.
Well, we actually dread usually the marking process.
Okay.
Because that's when you have to mark a large number of scripts, or at least we used to. In the Department of Government, we don't have so many exams anymore.
Yeah.
But traditionally it was a period where we have to mark like 150, 200 scripts.
Oh, okay.
And then second mark. So that was a very intense period. We didn't have to lecture, but at the same time it is a quite intense process because we had very short time.
Yeah, so you kind of feel like very stretched because the whole of
it usually feels quite intense.
Yeah,
and it's something that you have to do very quickly and
everything and
send it to the next person and etc. So it's stressful, but for different reasons.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Okay, so the first question is for me. So in terms of exam questions, so when answering an exam questions, are we expected to think about it as an essay question with a well set up structure, or is there like specific dynamic to answer an essay question, an exam question?
Well, obviously it varies from field to field, right? And even like in the Department of Government, if you do an exam in a methods module, the kind of questions you're getting are different in terms of structure and expectations. If it's like a more standard type of question, than an essay type of question, then yes, you do need to think about the structure.
Okay.
Of course, you're not accountable the same way you are when you write an essay, but at the same time, it should be some kind of logic in the way you argue. The content probably way more than anything, but the way you present it also will influence the final decision.
Okay.
Marking is very indisocratic, so the best way, I mean, because you try to influence also in a way the marker, right, and it could be positively predisposed towards you. So the more structure is an answer, the easier it is for someone to understand the logic of your answer, and therefore the more willing will be to so to speak, give you good mark.
Okay.
So you do not have any like a paper which says very strict for this thing you have to give 2 points, for example, or 3 points?
Yes, you have criteria in terms of your content, and again it varies from module to module, right? So for instance, you might expect to see key words or key points that need to be answered. But at the same time, if you do that in a way that is it's presented in a coherent way, it will make our job easier. And it is a psychological process, right? Suddenly you have the script. It's hard to read the handwriting many times. It actually does affect you. And if you're number 100, then an answer that yes, it has all the key points, but at the same time is easy to read, then obviously subconsciously.
I see. So it
affects your state of mind.
So it's both hardworking for students and the professors as well.
Yes, especially when it comes to handwriting, that can be. I mean, there are cases where sometimes I would just guess.
What you wrote?
Well, yeah, the words, and then you go by identifying certain words, and then you just get an idea. if I cannot do that, then the student has to actually type the exam.
Okay, I understand, which is quite bad. But to what extent should we rely on the past exam papers?
And again, that depends. So for some modules, first of all, it depends if it's the same lecture. Obviously, we do change lectures, new people coming in, and they might have to teach a module that was offered in the past, in which case I'll be very reluctant to trust old exams, because the new person might have a different perspective, and therefore they might expect to see different types of information. If there is a continuation, I think that's a good benchmark. You can get an idea of the kind of questions you anticipate, but I wouldn't count 100% that they will be identical.
Oh, I understand.
So you need to be careful, like, is this person a new lecturer, or is this person someone who has taught the module for a few years, and therefore, you know, there is a repertoire of how many things you can ask in a given module.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. So this is like some of the questions can repeat, some of them not.
Yes, but you get a sense of what is going to be asked and how, right? Because it's not just the content, it's also how the questions are phrased.
Yeah.
But if it's a new person, then I'll be quite careful not to rely on past exams.
I understand.
So in terms of, the time when comes the time to mark a script, so what are the main aspects that the exam marking team is looking for in an exam paper? You already mentioned the handwriting problem.
No, the handwriting does not influence. Okay, there are objective criteria and there are subjective that are more psychological, if you want, in the process. So objectively, do you answer the question?
Yeah.
And that's actually quite crucial. Students have to answer the question they're asked, and many students do not. So it's very common that students might provide answers that are peripheral to the central question. So the first question is, do you actually, I'm asking you a question, do you provide me an answer, a basic answer? The content, do you include X, Y, Z of items that I'm expecting to see based on the lectures and the readings, right? Then, the way, because you have room, right? An answer could be quite decent, 2-1 answer, it could be a 62, it could be a 68.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between 62 and 68.
Yeah, exactly.
But what if you're between a 65 and a 62? And that's where these other psychological factors come into the picture. And as I said, a lot of these are not conscious, right? It could be because I'm tired, have already marked 50 scripts. It's script number 51. It looks quite similar as the 10 previous scripts. That will affect my ability to make a judgment beyond what is objectively there. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So that means it is not going to be a situation where 65 will be marked as a 55, I hope, at least when it comes to the individual marker.
Okay.
Right? But there might be variation because of how much you weigh the positives versus the negatives. Now, saying that, another person can mark the same script in a different way. And what happens there is that different people emphasize different types of information. So you might have, again, the same kind of information, but I might be happy because I see certain concepts that I'm particularly keen on this concept, where someone else might prefer a different set of concepts, and therefore, if you haven't developed those so well, they will count that more. So there is a variation from marker to marker. Okay. Despite efforts, obviously, we have some kind of the marking criteria.
And if there is like a difference between the first professor who marks and the second one, is there going to be a third one who's going to make the average, or?
Usually there is some kind of discussion in terms of, again, what are the advantages and the problems, what are the areas that this paper script has performed quite well, and areas where the script has not performed so well. So there is a discussion. If they cannot come to an agreement, then third person is involved. Of course, a lot of the scripts are reviewed by external examiners.
Okay.
So we have someone coming from a different institution, and then they collect a wide range of marks, not all scripts obviously. We cannot expect someone to read all the scripts, but like first 60, 50 fails. And then they can comment on whether these are appropriate marks for the level, whether that's a 2-1, a first, a third, etc. or a fail.
Understand. I think I just kind of made like a background idea of how the examination process is going on, and also the marking.
Yeah, there's so much work behind it. I think it's apart from the fact that the stress.
I guess for you guys it's a black box, isn't it?
You
write and then suddenly there's a mark coming out.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know what happens on the other side of the script.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, people, like some cases they do go, they look at specific words and concepts and they tick those. But that will take you so far into like the marking scale, right? If ultimately if you want to move into a distinction, that's where people want to see something a little bit more original, or the way that you synthesize the literature in like the readings in the course. It has to be a little bit unique, more unique than just repeating what you have been told in class.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I think this was like very, very useful for everybody, because the examination is coming out in a month or so. And thanks very much for watching us, and also thank you, Professor Gizelis, for accepting our invitation again. And I can say that we are very happy because this is our 7th episode. So please do not forget to send your questions at essexanswers@gmail.com, and we're just gonna answer to them in other episodes. Thanks very much for watching, and subscribe.
Thank you.
Thank you.